Whenever you're ready.
So hi, welcome to this very first, only, and last episode of the final podcast. I'm Nick,
I'm Roberto.
and we're doing a podcast now because of reasons.
Yeah, we talked about this for like weeks and maybe even months, and I guess we just always thought, it was just talk. It was never going to happen, and then we had to stop working together to finally say, like, we have to find a reason to see each
We have
other.
to actually split each other apart.
Yeah.
And go like, oh wait, this is a good excuse to actually get back together.
and do a podcast. So this is us doing a podcast, and that's it. So why don't we get right into it? And what is the first subject you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Mission Impossible because I'm jealous of you because you got to go see it in IMAX and I
Oh.
didn't. I saw it in very shitty regular 3D, which I hate, but that was the only times available.
Yeah, well, that's the thing now. It's just like I was going through the schedule, and I was trying to find actually just I wanted to go see it in normal. I don't know how to regular format.
I think
right?
just regular, yeah.
Just plain
Standard
plain format, and it wasn't playing anywhere. It would like the last regular format was playing at like 5, so I couldn't go. And so I said to myself, either I go in 3D or I go to IMAX, and I picked IMAX kind of just because I hate
Obvious
3D.
way to go.
Yeah, best way to go.
If you're going to see 3D, you got to go see IMAX 3D.
Yeah,
There's no in between.
And I was really happy because it was spectacular in IMAX. It'd been a while since I've seen a movie in IMAX, to be honest, because I just want to go see a movie, and I don't want it to cost like $20.
Yeah.
And I want to just go see the movie and not have all that extra bullshit.
Sometimes it's worth it though.
Yeah,
I'm
it was.
I'm
It
going to
was
go
for
see it
that.
again. I'm going to
No.
go see it again in IMAX.
I think it was. I'm glad. As I was watching it, I was actually telling myself, "Wow, this was really a good idea. Like, why don't I do this more often?" It kind of brought back the whole my whole not love for movies, but to be honest, I was like watching the movie going like, why don't I do this every single time? Because it's like now it's like watching a movie standard and watching it in HD. It blew my mind, and plus it's just like the movie is amazing. It's made for IMAX.
It's also like not every movie is worth going to IMAX
Yeah.
as much as Mission Impossible is worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Dark Knight would be, or any Batman, or like all the Avengers,
Superhero
blah, blah,
movies
blah,
or action
superhero
movies are always
action
worth it.
movies. Absolutely, and I'm glad I went to go see that in IMAX. And of course, they don't put everything in IMAX. They're not going to put like some rom-com.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's coming out this week. That's why it's on my mind.
That's a good comparison. But yeah, so I went to go see it in IMAX, and I thought it was amazing. We were going to go into details of why, but I actually did not see. I think Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Rogue Nation?
That's the one before the fifth one. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if I saw it, and if I did, maybe I saw like bits and pieces, but I don't think I saw it from beginning to end. Which
That's kind of funny because in any other Mission Impossible movie, that wouldn't matter at all.
Except
But
for this
Fallout
one.
is the first one that
Yeah.
has continuity. That actually is kind of a sequel for the first time.
I know, and because on my way to the theater, I was asking myself like, which ones did I see? And I know I saw the first one, the second one, most likely the third one, and then 4 and 5 are a blur. I'm pretty sure I saw them, but none of them. I don't remember reacting as much as I did for maybe the first one, but for this one, it was just like really good.
First one, you mean Ghost Protocol? Or you mean the first one?
For the first Tom Cruise.
Because Ghost
Mission
Protocol is
Impossible.
kind of also like amazing. Like it's kind of like the rebirth that led to this new one. It's like there's two separate trilogies.
Well, it's strange because I looked up at the dates of Mission Impossible, and the first one came out in like
96, right?
Yeah, something like that. And like back then, nothing has lasted as long as this franchise, except for maybe James Bond.
I was gonna say James Bond.
But to me, you have to separate every James Bond iteration by the actor playing James
That's fair.
Bond.
They're
right?
like eras.
Right. So the first Mission Impossible was probably during the Pierce Brosnan era.
Brosnan.
Brosnan? It's not Brosnan?
No.
See, you learn
You
every
learn
day.
something new every day.
It's all right. I don't even know.
I'm gonna have to have that film degree back from you now.
Yeah, Henry Cavill? Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill. I actually found out it was Cavill. I watched the behind the scenes.
Okay.
And Tom Cruise says Cavill.
Okay.
And if Tom says Cavill, then it's Cavill.
Whatever Tom says, I guess.
Whatever Tom says goes.
That's the truth, right? Right. So it's the Pierce Brosnan era. So what I'm trying to say is that hasn't been, I think, an actor who's played one character like that for that long. For example, like Pierce Brosnan played James Bond for how many movies?
I
Like
think 4 or 5.
4 or 5, and
Yeah.
now we're down to what's his face?
Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig. Thank you. I'm bad with names, especially on the spot like that. Daniel Craig. He's done what, 5, 4, 5. Let's count them.
He's done Casino, Quantum,
Yeah.
Skyfall, Spectre.
So 4.
4.
So 4. He's gonna do a fifth one.
He's
for
he's
sure.
doing a fifth one, even though he
Yeah.
hates it.
Yeah. Well, he hated it since the beginning. So it's been 20 years. I guess more than 20 years. 22 years playing a character like that. I know that there have only been 6 movies over 22 years, but that's still very impressive. And each movie, it's so totally different. And that's because each director is so totally different.
Well, that's what Tom
Yeah.
Cruise's plan, right? He always hires a new director for every single project to get them like
Exactly.
that unique vision, right? The only exception is Fallout,
Yeah.
where it's Christopher McQuarrie who comes back.
Yeah.
But they even made an effort to make it different in like the script and everything. But I think he hired an entirely new crew for Fallout that they didn't have on Rogue. He kept 2 people. I think he kept the stunt coordinator and he kept the editor, I think, and everybody else was a completely new crew
For
Fallout.
Fallout.
Yeah, to give it that different feel because he knew like it's the first time a director's coming back, and he specifically wanted to give it a different feel. So he just hired a bunch of new people to actually help
'cause
make
when
it a new vision.
You think about it when you look at the directors. So you have Brian De Palma, which has a very specific look, and when you think about it, just think of I sent you a video of like all the dialogue scenes where it's like Dutch angles that are like extremely skewed.
But
And
they normally I hate Dutch angles,
Yeah.
but they work in the first Mission Impossible. They
Yeah, no,
they
they
work with
do.
that feeling of like
and the
treachery and untrustworthiness and the whole vibe of those like
the whole lighting and the whole like colors and the use of camera movement and editing, in the first one, and then you have John Woo, and
was
you're
even
like,
more visually distinctive.
oh yeah, and he's
Those doves, dude.
Yeah,
The doves.
And then who's the third one? Who was the third one? Third one was
J.J. Abrams.
yeah,
And it was
Brad
his first
Bird is the fifth, the fourth.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams was the third, and that was his first movie. He directed TV
Yeah,
before, but that
yeah.
was his first time doing a movie. He was
Oh,
still like
yeah,
an
he
up and coming guy back
Yeah.
then. That was what,
Yeah.
2005?
Yeah,
Impossible 3?
he was doing Dark Angel. Is that not Dark Angel?
Something-
Alias, no,
Alias.
or something like
I think
that.
he directed something in Alias, and he was doing Lost as well at the time.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of stuff.
Mission
TV
Impossible was his
stuff.
first movie though. That
Yeah.
he directed.
And it was I remember I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that one because when I was watching it, like not highlights, but like trailers and reviews, I remembered bits and pieces of it. And then Brad Bird, right? Who
Yeah.
did the fourth one,
And that was also his first live action movie.
Yeah.
Before he had only done Incredibles and I want to say Up or
no, not up.
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
He'd done Incredibles and Ratatouille, and that was his first live action.
And he did a great job.
It was amazing. It was like a rebirth for the series. Ghost Protocol's still,
Yeah. And it's just every single one is so different. So, the question has to be asked, and since this one came out, a lot of people have been talking about it. Is this the best franchise, or at least let's say action franchise that has come in the past? It's gotta
Ever?
be ever. I guess ever, if you want to.
Well, that's kind of the cool thing with having like the same actor come back every time. It's not the longest running franchise. Like you think of like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or
Yeah.
Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the one that has been the most consistently good.
That's
Like a lot of people shit on the second one.
Yeah.
But that to me was my favorite as a kid.
Yeah.
Because we had 3 VHS cassettes at home, and that was one of them. And I would watch that movie like once a week, every week. And so I'm a little biased, but like even that one is still like there's still a lot of good things to get from it. It's not like a trash movie. People hate it like because it's more actiony or more stylized or less espionage oriented, but it's still a great action movie at the end of the day.
I mean, it's probably, when you look at all 6, it's probably one of the, I'm not gonna say the most forgettable, but but there's still always, every single Mission Impossible has that moment, those key scenes, those key events or stunts that make it worthwhile. And to me, it's the motorcycle scene in Mission Impossible 2.
That fight is amazing. The whole
whole
chase
fight
that
is
leads into like the
crazy.
motorcycle duel and then the fist
The
fight that they
fight and
have,
then
the
the
knife
knife.
towards the eye, obviously.
I mean, that's a real, actual thing. Tom Cruise had a knife that stopped, like
Like a
barely,
centimeter,
like a centimeter away, not even a millimeter away from his eye, if something goes bad, he loses that eye.
Which is objectively insane.
That is actually Tom Cruise. People need to go see these movies and realize that is Tom Cruise doing everything on there. Like, now we're not going to go into spoilers or anything, but I can say that there's a scene in Fallout where he's hanging from a helicopter. Right, he's underneath the helicopter.
Yeah, that's in the trailer, so I think you can say that.
Yeah,
without giving too much context.
Yeah, so he's hanging from the helicopter, and you can tell the only CGI that's there is to remove the wires that are holding him up, because of course he's got wires. He's not just like nobody.
He has to have wires.
Even a stunt man, like no man would be hanging from a helicopter without a wire, but he's still doing it. Like the wire could snap or whatever. He's doing it, So it just that makes it worthwhile, because it reminds me in a way of, to me, what The Matrix did in 1999, where the actors learned how to do their stunts and their fights, and you could have close-ups, you could have longer takes, you could have different shots where you see the face. It's not just like, the actor pretending to throw a punch. It cuts to like a blurry image of a punch being thrown.
Especially fight scenes with like 30 different cuts for a single punch that you just feel so fake.
This is the actual actor doing these stunts, so it makes it even more impressive and more entertaining, because it can be shot in a way that other movies can't be shot, because they, in an action movie with a stunt double, what do? They cut away to a shot where you can't really see his face. It's maybe from further back, or
he's wearing a wig,
whatever. Yeah, and or he's out of focus because the camera's focused on what's going on behind him. No, this is Tom Cruise, so that's just amazing.
Your Matrix reference is good because it actually reminds me of John Wick, which is also Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
And he John Wick was very similar in the sense that he committed to it. He spent I think a whole summer training for those martial arts. He trained how to drive all those car scenes himself. He trained how to do the gun fu is what they called it then. And this movie reminds me a lot of that. Like, they're very different genres. It's espionage and like killer on the loose action, but they still have that same feeling of like, it's the actor doing it. You can tell from the long takes.
Exactly.
Oh, that's the actor doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't cut away 13 times and make you think like, oh, okay, there's a green screen here, a stunt double here, like a combination of a bunch of different elements. You actually tell. You can tell. When the movie ended, my girlfriend turned to me and she said, the best green screen is no green screen at all. And I thought that was a great way to put it, because it just looked so real.
Absolutely.
It looked fantastic.
I mean, there's so many moments in that movie where I was actually cringing, because I was like, how is he's gonna die, or like, how can they let him do this? And again, we're going back to the fact that it's the actual actor doing it allows you to shoot it in a way that you can't shoot normally, because again, you have to hide the fact that it's a stunt double. The whole, like, there's the scene in Paris, the whole Paris movie, the whole Paris scene is crazy, where he's on the motorcycle, and there's one thing, it's like a detail, but I have to say it. Though he's riding through Paris on a motorcycle, he's going really fast, breakneck speeds, and he keeps putting his foot out when he's turning. I guess it's a technique to
slow down and like get some traction.
And his foot is always like a quarter of an inch off the pavement, but he's going like, I don't know, like 40, 50 kilometers an hour or more. And I'm looking at him like, you just put your foot down and you could break your ankle just there, right? So just
he did break his ankle on the shoot.
When he
jumped the roof.
Jump. Yeah, I know.
Which is the same shot they kept in
God, I know. And
have you seen the behind the scenes from that?
Yeah,
where
it's
he
brutal.
he leaves the camera and he just limps away.
I know.
And he stops, like it just looks.
But when you look, because then somebody actually showed, because he showed that whole thing on a talk show or something, where you actually see in slow motion his foot kind of twists.
That movement where it's like it looks unnatural.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be in that direction.
And it's still, that's the shot they kept, and I knew it. So as I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the part where he broke his ankle. But I think, again, going back to action sequences and set pieces in this movie, in Fallout, the whole movie just never stops. It's never ending. What surprised me is I was expecting a sort of, because usually to me it starts with like an action scene, and then there's a Mission Impossible theme, and then the movie kicks off.
Like the cold open, and then
blah 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 blah. But this movie actually starts out very quiet. I find nothing much going on. He gets the whole like, your mission if you choose to accept it, And then there's a whole plutonium thing, the exchange, and then once it just starts, it doesn't stop. There's like it almost like gives you 10 minutes to breathe, and it's like, okay, well, hold on, because once Henry Cavill gets here, it just doesn't stop.
It
Once
has
they get
a
on the plane,
very rapid pace.
oh yeah,
It never lets up. There's always, and that's kind of like the last two were kind of also like this, like Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation were also kind of like this, where they had great pace, where they were always giving you something new to enjoy. There's never a scene that you kind of go like, this was a waste of time, or this felt slower. It's always like, oh, there's new information, there's a new character, there's a new action scene, new information, new character. It's always something new, and that services the plot.
Yeah.
And that makes you want to keep watching and find out. Like Mission Impossible as a series, it does two things very well. The first is like creating tension. Like when I was watching Fallout, and when you were watching Fallout, you feel afraid because in a weird way you know that it's an actor doing it, and that kind of helps. It's one of those weird things where knowing it's a movie makes you more worried for the actor instead of less. Most films you watch them, you're like, oh, you can see the green screen. It's like the chase looks kind of fake, or that jump was clearly stunt double.
He actually jumps out of a plane.
But here you know it's him, and that kind of makes you nervous because he's like
actually jumps out of a plane.
he's actually doing it. The Halo jump. That's in the beginning.
For people who don't know, I didn't know. It's a high altitude. What's the third one?
Low opening.
Low opening. So basically, it's like a spy levels thing where you jump out of a plane at like
25,000
feet, and then you open your chute at the last possible second, so you're basically undetectable by whatever radar, satellite,
people,
whatever the people
production crew,
people looking at the sky or whatever. And he does that, and I mean, he doesn't do the. I mean, come on, it's still a movie. He doesn't actually do a halo jump, but he actually jumps from really, really high.
It was actually a halo jump.
Like bullshit.
You didn't.
Actually, like,
it was literally a halo jump.
No, but I mean the opening the chute at the last second. That
well, obviously what, like,
you know
they collaged I think 6 shots together to make that final one.
Yeah.
But the scene of him running out of the plane and jumping out.
You know that's real.
That's a guy running in front of him with the camera and they just jump out.
No, I saw all that. I believe. I'm just saying that. You know, the last part where he opens his chute late and he almost dies and blah blah blah. You're like, that's.
You can only go so far.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that. But yeah, that once actually, I think the movie starts. Not the movie. The breakneck speed of the movie, the nonstop action starts there, and it really does a good job of, like you said, creating tension, because that's the whole thing for me. Mission Impossible is always about. There's one first mission that is like always seems so simple. So this guy stole something that could create a bomb, and then you need to stop him because he's gonna blow the earth up. And then you realize
these aren't spoilers, by the way. These are like the first 10 minutes of the movie, just so people aren't.
No. This is like you're not. I'm
first
not
10
spoiling
minutes.
anything.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole like spy element of who to trust and who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, who's double crossing you. And
which
blah,
again,
blah,
the
blah.
Mission Impossible movies do the best. They're the best.
They
at
always
that.
and they
they're
always
the best
do
at the
that.
misdirect.
Yeah.
That's like their strength. And I think that comes from the masks. Like the main thing where that comes from is the masks.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't show that in the trailers, which is good because you don't want to know when they wear masks. But whenever you're watching the movie, knowing that at any point any of the characters could be wearing a mask without you knowing, it helps them so much with like their universe. Like any other movie can't do that. Like another character be a completely different character just like that, but they have that and it's built in as being like really realistic and believable in their world.
And that's something I really like and I enjoy about the series is that certain things keep coming back, like the masks, because I keep forgetting about them in a way, and then I go like,
they want you to forget about them.
Masks, and then you, like you say, you're like, is that person actually that person? Is he wearing a mask? And then there's always that moment where you think, oh no. That person's wearing a mask, and then it's misdirection where no, he's not, it's the other one, blah, blah, blah. So I love that element. I like that there are certain things that Mission Impossible does that, you know, James Bond doesn't do. They don't have that, and they don't really have that. They don't have that.
And it would feel
technology.
gimmicky and weird if they did. Like, it's not part of their established universe.
Exactly.
Whereas Mission, since the TV show, but since the first movie, it has been like, here, we have these super advanced gadgets that we don't have in the real world, but we have them in this world. Yeah. And now, like, go forth with the story.
And I was gonna go somewhere with this, but I forgot. But so the masks, James Bond. Where am I going with this? Anyway, so one thing we're talking about really the good elements of the movie. So I really enjoyed it. It's important to say that. I think you have to go see it.
I'm sensing a but.
There are a few of them.
Non-spoiler ones.
Non-spoiler ones. Henry Cavill, what did you think of his character and his acting? What do you think of him?
Great mustache.
I know. Well,
For
that's
$3 million, it better be worth it.
It's the best massage I've ever seen on screen, by the way. Like, I have to mention this. Like, it was beautiful, especially in IMAX. It took up the whole screen. I couldn't believe it. I was
fantastic.
like, I loved it. All right, so
I had a feeling that you would not like his character very much.
I did not say. Wait a minute.
So I came prepared for that.
I did not say I didn't like his character. I haven't.
His performance.
I haven't made up my mind yet because, so he's introduced as this character that basically kills everybody. He's like a.
Have you forgotten his name already?
Some very Americanish name.
August Walker.
There you go, Walker. Yeah, Walker. Damn. So Walker, he's introduced as
It's a pun. His name is a pun. August Fall. Movie's called Fallout.
Oh God. Wow. Are you sure?
No, I'm just making that up.
Yeah, I was like, there's just like too much for me. So August Walker is introduced as a character that basically kills all of the people he's supposed to catch, right?
Yeah, he's like this merciless, like CIA hunter agent.
And he's like cold-blooded, and he's all business, and he's got a mustache to prove it. And at a certain point at the beginning, I didn't like him because I thought, well, this character's so bland, right? There's nothing to him. But then, you know, as the movie progressed and you kind of realize what his motivations are and what kind of person he is in this universe, I said, okay, I'll accept it as this guy that is like basically a piece of white bread in the sense that there's nothing to him, right? There's no apart from the fact that he can fight and that he's like really hard to take down, and he's so big. Like the wardrobe people, they must have bought shirts that was like 3 sizes too small for him.
He's built like a shit brick house.
Holy crap. Like I was watching this and I was intimidated. And I was like, of course, you know, you have like 5'7" Tom Cruise and 6'4" and 300 pounds of muscle. And it's like, how is he gonna even beat him? But that's the whole thing. It's the whole idea of like, if they ever have, because the thing is, it's not really a spoiler, but August Walker is sent. He's forced by the FBI, right?
The CIA.
CIA.
He's
same difference.
He's like Tom Cruise's character's babysitter.
Yeah, exactly. He's sent.
He's there to like keep
him,
an eye on him,
and
be like,
if anything goes wrong, like you have to. He has like his own mission basically.
He's doing the CIA's work.
Exactly, and
working in co-op with the IMF.
So if Hunt gets in the way, Walker needs to take him out of the way. So you know that's going to happen eventually because they wouldn't say that and have these two be together without it happening.
Right.
So,
they teased it very clearly at the beginning that like these two are going to have some sort of confrontation at some point.
And the whole people keep talking about the whole fight in the bathroom where he loads his arms like his fist like weapons.
Sad the sound effect wasn't in the final movie, like the little boom boom when he puts out his. I was so sad. They should have been in the movie.
Yeah,
that should have been there.
He's so good. The thing is
that scene is great. The bathroom scene is fantastic.
Every action scene in that movie is fantastic.
That's true.
We have to say it. This movie, for what it is, this movie is an action movie. It's a spy movie. It's fantastic. Like, if you just are expecting that, your mind will be blown.
It nails the spy experience.
Don't go seeing this movie expecting anything else. If you do, you'll be disappointed. I went knowing that it was going to be a good action movie, and
that seems like a criticism though, where I don't think we should like.
Oh,
it doesn't need to be anything else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to be sort of like lofty, artsy, like
nowadays
pretentious
people.
reflection.
And I've done that as well, where you kind of go, well, this ain't no, I don't know, it's not as good as.
Well, it's not Disaster Artist.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, or like it's not one of my favorite movies. Like it's not Shawshank Redemption. Well, of course it's not. You know, it's like this is what it is. People sometimes have a difficulty. I hate putting movies in boxes. But sometimes you need to appreciate them, right? This movie, and it's a good movie nonetheless. Like even if you don't necessarily like spy movies, I think you'd enjoy this movie because it's a good action flick. It's entertaining. It's really entertaining. It never stops, and you don't ever have a moment to go like, all right, what am I doing tomorrow night? No, you're not thinking about. You're thinking about the movie now.
It demands your attention.
Absolutely. So again, I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to talk about because I think that Henry Cavill's character kind of stood out, you know. He kind of to me was just weird, you know. I didn't know what to make of him, so I wanted your opinion. So you had a list. You knew
I didn't have a list for that. I had a mental list for that one.
But
I was prepared for that one because my girlfriend had the same thing where she was like, it felt she liked his character, and I also did, and for the same reasons in that he feels like he's a little bit different. from what you would expect from him. He's like this gigantic burly guy, and you think
Yeah.
he's like, oh, he's just like one of those like brainless muscle dudes that you see in movies all the time. Like Dave Bautista gets put in that box a lot, and proves that he
Yeah.
can be more than that. Yeah,
That's true.
Both in Spectre and Guardians, and I assume he's done other stuff. I don't know what, but in this same sense, Henry Cavill to me was outside of that box, where he was for sure the least developed of all characters, but
Was
they
he?
were.
Well, developed in the sense that he didn't have a backstory or like
He was
he
the
had-
least
he didn't
developed
get-
of the new characters,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But even then, like there weren't. He was one of like what, 2 new characters, 3
True.
maybe.
True.
At best.
Important characters too.
Yeah, exactly. There's him. There's the White Widow.
Yeah.
That's not a spoiler. And then there's his CIA boss, played by Amanda something. I forget her name. Bassett.
If only there was this,
Angela
like,
Bassett.
There you go. Wow, you're good. You're faster than the IMDb.
Angela Bassett. So there's like 3 new characters. All the rest come back from Rogue Nation, right? So that kind of helps in the sense that he has some more time to be developed, where others already developed. You know who they are, what kind of characters they are. But he plays somebody who's a little bit different and more calmer than you would expect. He doesn't have that big like steroid ragey moments necessarily. He's just kind of a chill, relaxed super killer. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I kind of like that. It made him stand out to me in a good way. I think if you manage to stand out in that kind of movie when Tom Cruise is like 96% of screen time, I think that's good. And to me, he did kind of stand out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a good counterpart to. I think. Here's the thing, and this just popped up in my head, but I think that Tom Cruise's character, and I one of the reviews I read this week said that basically in Rogue Nation or maybe Ghost Protocol, characters in the movie realize that Ethan Hunt is insane. Like he's
Rogue
just
Nation.
like Rogue Nation. Okay.
Yeah.
He's insane in the sense that he will stop at nothing to get the bad guys to accomplish his mission, and he's just he'll never stop, and he's got this crazy energy, which is, when you think about it, it is that he just runs, like he never stops. He doesn't, like, he's like a
I love
shark.
when he runs.
Yeah, no, I know. He's like a
So
shark.
good.
If he stops moving, he dies. So like he just keeps running, and there's a scene in that in Fallout where he's just running and running and running, and it's just like, again, he doesn't stop. Like there's an obstacle, I'm gonna jump over it, slide under it, jump through it, whatever. And then you have Henry Cavill, and he's like the
He's
immovable object.
Exactly, yeah.
So
Unstoppable force.
there is that sort of conflict, I guess, and I just realized, and that makes me maybe appreciate the character more.
There you go.
So I can get that now. Okay, so I see where they're going there.
Alec Baldwin's character has a great line near the end of Rogue Nation where he's talking to someone else about Hunt, and he goes, he basically lavishes praise on him in like a threatening way, saying like, you don't want to cross this guy. He's super dangerous. He says he's the physical manifestation of destiny.
Yeah,
He's already anticipated this conversation, and whatever outcomes come from it. And what he means by that, and what you just said, is that he is like a multi-track mind that all go in the same direction. Like he knows what he has to do to get to a place, and he has like 30 different plans how to do it, and he will do it. He will just go.
Yeah.
And that makes him likable as a character, because it's not. You mentioned James Bond, which is a good comparison, because I watched earlier today actually A View to a Kill. Not A View to a Kill, the one after that, Living Daylights. I just watched that today for the first time, and boy, are those two movies so different. James Bond in that is like, and even in all James Bond movies, he's like this kind of like narcissistic, kind of a dick, alcoholic dude who just like follows the direction wherever his boner is pointing, essentially, where it's like, ooh, pretty girl, I'm gonna follow that lead. And you don't know why he's doing things. You don't know what his motivations are. He's like,
That's true.
does he like his country? Does he like being a spy? Does he enjoy the danger? Why does he do it? And with Ethan Hunt, it's very clear he actually has compassion. He actually enjoys what he does. He enjoys being good at it, but he also he has emotions. He feels for his team. He cares about them. He wants to save them. Multiple times in the various series, we see him take risks to save the one individual instead of the many. And that's also a theme of Fallout, right?
Absolutely.
And the consequences of him being that kind of person.
Yeah.
And him performing actions under the guise of being that kind of person, right? So it's good to have a character who you feel for, even if he is like this super spy killing machine.
I feel that, again, I think we're getting towards the end of the Mission Impossible series. I don't know how many more they're going to do. I mean,
I'm betting on 2.
I think 2 might be possible, depending on how fast they can do them, because he's 56. So if you look at how long has it been since, so between the last two, how long has it been? Like
I think 2015, so
so
3 years.
3 years. So it's
And
not that bad.
the
If they
same
could
thing
do-
between Rogue and
Okay,
those
so
3 years.
every 3 years, 3 to 4 years, that still takes them to like 62 ish, 63. I don't know, around that.
It helps that he looks younger though.
Yeah.
It's not like
I'm not saying he's too old to do, but like at a certain point they're gonna go like, okay, well this is the last one, right? And who knows? But the thing is that since we're getting towards, let's say, the end, there's a lot more baggage to the characters, and I thought that in this particular movie they used prior characters, prior events, and to motivate characters, and also to create more certain tension. I guess I don't want to go into like a spoiler territory, but there is a character towards the end that I did not expect that is in danger, and to me it added on to the whole motivation of Ethan Hunt, and also to the whole tension of the movie. Like I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And and just like the way that for once, I guess, because all the movies are all individual movies.
Yeah, they're
They
self-contained.
They don't have like, they do have consequences on the next movie. Like you do have moments where they said, remember when you did that, or blah blah. But this is the first time, like you said, it's the same writer director, and so I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the next one. Like, are they going to go with a trilogy with the same director?
Well, I feel like they just had their trilogy. I think Ghost Protocol was the start of
Yeah.
this new trilogy, because even
Yeah.
at the end of Ghost Protocol, when he walks off into the steam or fog or whatever, he's listening to his new mission and says you're going to track down the Syndicate.
Yeah.
And the next one is Syndicate, and now
Yeah.
it's the same villain from Syndicate or from Rogue Nation comes
Yeah.
back, and so like they have like this
true.
secondary trilogy now.
That's true.
And so this maybe the seventh one, where
Could be a goodbye.
he's gonna go to space probably, because that's like the only thing left to do, right? They should either close it off or introduce his successor, played by Tom Holland.
Oh God, no. Are you serious?
I'd love that. I'm saying I'd want
No,
that.
I know, but no, I'm serious. I'm like, are you serious saying that? Tom Holland?
He's gonna play Nathan Drake. Why can't he play the
You
new?
can't play both. You can't play both
Sure,
Nathan
of
Drake.
course he
No.
can.
Oh God.
If you can be Han Solo and Indiana Jones, you can be Nathan Drake and Ethan Hunt Jr. or whatever they're gonna call him.
Ethan Hunt.
Ethan's
Jr.
long lost son and/or nephew comes back, and he wants to be a super spy or whatever.
Yeah. No.
That
okay.
I'm sad that Jeremy Renner isn't in this one.
Yeah.
And I was very sad about that because I love his character. I love he plays William Brandt, like the ex/analyst or whatever. I liked his character, and he could carry this franchise. He's a little younger. He did very well in Born Legacy, despite the fact that movie was hot garbage.
Yeah.
And I feel like he could be like a cool like successor. Even Simon Pegg. I love
Plus,
seeing
he's
Simon
like
Pegg do action scenes.
he's like the same height, so wardrobe wouldn't be too
Is he?
discombobulated.
Oh, you're right. He is kind of short. I never realized until now.
They're
You've
both
changed
short.
my whole perspective.
Oh, you don't want a short? You can't be short. What? Maybe he's just getting
No,
tinier
he
and
can be
tinier?
short. I just never realized that he was a little shorter.
He's not shorter. I don't know.
Shortish.
Who are we talking about? Let's go
I don't-
check how tall he is. Talking about Simon Pegg. I mean, he's so good. He is. His comedy, his delivery, is spot on. The whole, like, when he's at a certain point, Tom Cruise is running on the rooftop in
London, I think?
Yeah, in London, and he has like Simon Pegg, his characters has a tablet, and he's telling him like, okay, you know, you're
Like
running
GPS
towards
tracking him.
tracking. So he has like two different sort of tracking. He's tracking Tom Cruise and the other character, and Tom Cruise is running on the roof. And at a certain point, he's like, well, turn left. Like, I can't turn left. Well, turn left. And then he realizes that like his tablet was set on like 2D. And
It was screen lock, so he had to flip it upside down first.
I don't know. Turn
It's like,
right.
sorry, I
turn
have the
right.
screen lock on. Turn right, turn right. And then later he's like, well, just cross the street. What are you doing? He's like, I'm jumping out a window. That moment from the
Yeah,
trailer.
so
It's like,
good.
Ooh, I had it in 2D, and he flips it, and you see like the 3D view where Tom's dot is super high on a rooftop, and he was like, ooh, sorry, good luck.
That is so good. There's a lot of comedy. Not that actually, there's not that much, but the comedy that's there is again very well.
I think they nailed the comedy balance in this one like the best since like these most recent ones. Like they finally got their like balance right. It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie where it's like every single line has a little bit of comedy, which sometimes gets a little overbearing.
Yeah.
This one has like a good amount, and it's there at the right times.
Yeah.
There's not like a joke that like alleviates the tension, just breaks all tension completely. Like it's always at the right moment.
Yeah, because I feel like there are moments where they could have spoiled the tension and the maybe the where the story was going, in the sense that there's a point where they're about, that's actually at the end of the Paris scene. They end up capturing someone and putting him in a car, and they open the garage door, and then something happens.
Yeah.
And I feel that in a Marvel movie, they probably would have put a joke there. Like something would have, like, or maybe not a Marvel movie, but something would have happened that would have broken that tension. But no, like something happens there that affects Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, like to the bone, right? You can tell that was like really dark for him. And there's a lot of that, and I feel like there's a lot of moments where Ethan Hunt is pushed a bit to the limit, like the whole Paris, like why they're in Paris.
Yeah.
He like envisions what's gonna happen, and you're like, he's thinking, am I gonna have to do this? Is this what I'm gonna have to do? And that's pushing even more the limits of what he's willing to do. And like there are certain lines he's not willing to cross.
Yeah, those misdirects that Mission Impossible is always good at get even better in this one,
Mm-hmm.
where they like, I think, go an extra step into making you believe, or kind of just even for a split second makes you go like, did they really do that? Did he just do that?
Yeah.
And it cuts back and you go, oh no, okay, phew, it's not what I thought it was. But this movie like nails that even better than the previous ones. I'm so happy that Mission Impossible movies are good.
Yeah, they are good.
I was sad when like the third one to me was like the least. I like that one the least. I don't know. It was just forgettable for me.
Yeah.
Other than the villain, who was played by Hoffman. Dennis, not Dennis.
No. Oh, why did you say that? Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't know if I said Dennis Hoffman, but Philip Seymour Hoffman played that character, and he was a great villain. But other than that, the movie to me was a little bit forgettable.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Protocol and the subsequent ones have like been these sort of higher standard movies that will not get old. Ghost Protocol will never feel aged or old. Those are like it's part of that series of movies that were happy inheritors of the Dark Knight influence.
Yeah.
Like they were like the positive outcomes. Like we're talking about this recently, you and I, because the Dark Knight came out like very recently. It was like the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Yeah, it was like a few months ago.
And that movie was like heaped high praise. Everything was like, it was at 95 or 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. 5 Oscar nominations. Heath Ledger's posthumous Oscar. That movie was like got all the hype. And it affected all the movies that have come since in the past 10 years.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, 10 years, I feel old.
You feel old? Oh, for God's sakes. Listen, next year will be the 20-year anniversary of The Matrix. Now, I understand that you were, what, 5? 4? You were 4. Oh, my God. You were 4. I was 14. And that movie, to me, had the same kind of impact that The Dark Knight had. So I'm gonna we're not gonna talk about it, because The Matrix to me should be another topic on itself. It's a whole other episode. But to me, it blew my mind, and I will always remember like my reaction to the movie The Matrix. So let's just, I'm gonna end that there, and we'll talk about The Matrix another time. But since we're veering towards The Dark Knight, I want to talk about a scene that happens in Mission Impossible that reminded me of why Christopher Nolan is such a master at directing.
Okay.
I know you're looking at me like
you're
weird
reaching
eyes.
somewhere.
No,
here.
no, I'm not.
I'm not seeing where you're reaching, but you're reaching somewhere.
So the last scene, right? The climax of Mission Impossible, where Ethan Hunt,
where things happen.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's in a helicopter, all right? It doesn't matter.
You've seen it in the trailer.
It's a freaking helicopter. And there's something that's going to happen, and oh, fuck it, there's a bomb, because there's a timer, and only bombs have timers, all right? It's not like, it's not hard to understand. So there's a timer, and they have 15 minutes, right, before it blows up. And the whole last climactic scene is like half an hour. And I understand that they do that. They've always done that in movies, where 15 minutes can be half an hour, because, you know, so many things are happening at the same time that when you jump back to, you know, Simon Pegg, well, this is happening, you know, maybe 2 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
Simultaneously, so it's like 15 minutes.
In that case, there's 3 scenes going at the same time. So I think in that case, it's forgivable. Normally, I'd agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, man, you really love this movie, don't you?
I do. I'll defend it till my dying breath.
I can see that. Then I'm reminded of The Dark Knight, when Batman needs to go extract in Hong Kong, the China Lao. Thank you, Lao. What does he do? Batman puts charges on a window with let's say 15 minutes, And if you
It's 2 minutes and 4 seconds, but sure.
2 minutes 4 seconds,
Or 2
No.
minutes and 15 seconds, like 2 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it's
No,
a very
more
it's a
than that.
short scene.
Anyway, or whatever, 2 minutes 40 seconds or whatever. Well, if you look at the scene when he presses start and the timer goes off and he starts fighting the guys, when the bomb explodes, the whole scene was 2 minutes and 40. I understand, but I thought it was longer than that. I'm sure it was. Doesn't matter. I'm just saying that he actually edited. Christopher Nolan, he did a thing. It's going to be 2 minutes 40 seconds. And not more, not less, because that's a whole realism thing of Dark Knight, right? I'm not saying that they had to do it in Mission Impossible, but I was watching going like, this is like half an hour. This is twice the time you had before the bomb explodes. Again, it's like a minor thing, but it just reminded me of why I love The Dark Knight, because there's certain things in The Dark Knight that you don't realize, because I didn't watch The Dark Knight saying like, hey, that was exactly the time you put on the bomb. Wow, that's amazing. No, but it's details like that. It makes you realize that Christopher Nolan, his just attention to certain details, certain things in his movies, that it's the sum of all the parts is just so amazing. And The Dark Knight, I remember watching it, loving it, but not realizing how much it was good. And then rewatching it again once it came out on video or whatever, DVD or cassette or Blu-ray or whatever, and watching it again and then realizing, okay, whoa, this part's amazing. And then Heath Ledger, I knew it was good, but rewatching it, it just keeps getting better. If I watch it again tomorrow, I'm still gonna find something else about it that I love. So, like we were saying, The Dark Knight influenced a lot of movies, and you sent me a list.
I sent you 3 lists.
Yeah, 3 lists. But there's a lot of movies that come back on that list.
Yeah, a lot of them were overlapping, but I thought I searched curiosity, what movies were inspired. Some I knew myself, I could see the inspiration. Some I was like, oh, I didn't think of it, but I made a list of the positive ones and the negative ones.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Which one do you want me to give you first?
I wanted to say one thing though. I know that there was Superman versus Superman, Man of Steel. But Man of Steel, Christopher Nolan produced. Or was
executive produced.
Executive produced.
Yeah, and so that one
doesn't count.
It doesn't count. I agree,
because it should be only movies that were Christopher Nolan
had nothing to do with him.
Nothing to do with
I
him.
agree with you.
He didn't even call anybody. He didn't know anybody on the set.
But I still have a counterpoint to that.
Go ahead.
The reason Man of Steel was that way is because the studio pushed it to be that way. They told that senator hey, make The Dark Knight but for Superman.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So it's still a consequence.
Which is completely idiotic.
Totally, I agree with you, but it's still a consequence of the Dark Knight's existence.
It's make Superman like Batman. Have they ever even read one comic book or seen one?
It's 12 executives sitting in a boardroom eating mayonnaise with a spoon. They haven't read any comic books ever.
Mayonnaise with a spoon? What's wrong with that?
Exactly. You want the bad ones or the good ones?
Start with the bad ones.
I had Man of Steel here because I think that counts.
Okay.
Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is still a direct consequence of Man of Steel.
Yeah. Well, the whole DCU is a consequence of the Man.
Up until the latest, we're going to get into Snow White and the Huntsman. Have you seen that?
I think I did. I did. I know I did. Peters. But why? Why?
Dark and gritty fantasy reboot. Because we need more of those, apparently.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I watched it because, I'm such a big fan of, what's her face from Twilight?
Kristen Stewart.
There you go. I'm such a fan. The worst part is, I actually, I've looked at what she's been doing recently, and
a lot of indie stuff.
Yeah, and I'm glad because, sometimes some actors, they're younger and they know that if they do this, they'll be popular and they get money and that it might open doors. And so, okay, yeah, I'll do Twilight. But I'm sure that most of the actors who were in Twilight regret it. And they've all come out and said that they
all pretty
regret
miserable
it.
Apparently.
But they made a lot of money and it put them on the map. And we know who Kristen Stewart is now. Kristen Stewart. And also Robert Pattinson.
Or Pattison.
Whatever.
Pattinson.
Bobby.
Cedric.
Yeah, him. The guy, the vampire that glows.
Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Oh God. Is there a team that kills? Who? I don't know.
The only correct answer is Team Jacob.
Team Jacob. Thank you. I don't know.
See, this way you'll be ready next time a 14-year-old girl confronts you in the subway.
Team Jacob or Team. Anyway, so we're so veering off course, but I'm just saying that I saw Snow White and the Huntsman. I know I saw it. But it's one of those movies that you see and you forget, kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Wasn't that with oh god, I hate that. I'm forgetting names, but
Chris Hemsworth was in it.
Chris Hemsworth in it, but the
Yeah, the
bad
villain, I
character, the
forget
villain
who-
is played by Charlize Theron.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and she like dips herself
Bathes in milk or
milk
something. I don't know.
yeah.
It's a whole rejuvenating thing.
Isn't it just fantastic? Because
that's
they
the
couldn't
one
put,
thing you remember is
they
like
couldn't put
Charlize
blood.
Theron bathing in milk.
Of course. Is there something to remember from that movie? Is her? Come on, all right. Can I please have that? I mean, if any movie that Chris Hemsworth is in, you know, there's going to be a scene where he's shirtless. That's for the women, and Charlize Theron bathing in milk is for the men.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, it was in the trailer. Like, it was like probably half
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
trailer was her in the
Just
milk.
like emerging from the
That was it.
yeah.
They should have just called it like, "Hey, come see
Charlize Theron emerging from the milk.
There you go. All right. It was, and a lot of men would have still gone.
I'm sure it's still
So influenced by The Dark Knight. What else? The bad ones, right? So
the
keep
bad
going
ones.
with
I've Godzilla,
that's
the most recent one with
What do you mean the
Bryan
most recent?
Cranston.
Yeah.
And,
Which is not really the most recent one. There have been more. Well, most
well, I'm
recent
talking about
American one.
in this continuity, like
Yeah, it's true.
Kong Skull Island is part of this continuity. It's the same universe.
Yeah.
That's a great movie, by the way.
It is. Well,
fantastic.
it is. Yeah.
I think
That's
it's fun. It's really
It's fun.
fun. Amazing Spider-Man,
Okay.
Star
Yeah.
Trek Into Darkness, which is my favorite example.
It is true.
'Cause
Very
there's
true.
so many parallels with the Dark Knight
True.
in that one.
And Benedict Cumberbatch is so good. I actually love that actor. I think he's freaking fantastic. Because when I watched, if you haven't watched Sherlock Holmes, please do. I mean, it's
You mean
just-
Sherlock, like the series Sherlock?
Yeah, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sherlock, not Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. Watch it. It's just a delight. And it's just so good, well written, and the actors are just spectacular. And it's just watch it. And if you don't like Benedict Cumberbatch, watch it.
Cumberpatch?
Cumberbatch.
Cucumber Patch.
I see. Here's the thing. His name, it's become a meme
Yeah.
where I don't even know how to say it anymore. So
There's no right way to say
Benedict Cumber.
Ex-Benedict Cumberbatch.
There you go. Ex-Benedict Cumberbatch.
And then I have Fanforstic.
Oh God, you mean which one? The one with the
Fanforstic.
Oh, you mean fan fours and the number?
Fanforstic.
Oh,
You know what I'm
God.
talking about.
Oh God, yeah.
That's a whole other thing. And I have RoboCop. Jose
mean-
Padilla's, was it 2014 RoboCop?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, don't.
Oh, good.
He has like that black metal suit.
Oh yeah.
And it's gritty and not good.
Too bad.
And I have a bunch of good ones here. And I
Can
have
we just
one.
go back real quick, just 2 seconds, just a minute on Fanforstic? They had amazing actors.
They had amazing actors with terrible writing and visible reshoots and just
It was
bad superheroing.
so horrible.
I saw it in theaters.
Oh God, why? Oh, whatever. I'm not gonna judge.
I don't know. I was like, oh, it's apparently really awful. I'll go have a great experience watching it. I was like alone in the theater. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's good. Are you excited at the idea that maybe Marvel can finally get it back and do a decent job with it?
My monkey brain is like, ooh, yay, more superheroes and movies together. And then my actual brain is like, oh no, a corporation getting even more money and power. No good. And so the two sides are conflicted in me. I don't want Disney to be any more powerful because they're already a goddamn
powerful.
capitalistic machine. But on the other hand, ooh, Wolverine high-fiving Tony Stark. Woo-hoo-hoo. So I don't know where I'm at on that board. So
Well, I mean, at this point, there's like every freaking franchise is being done and redone to.
and also everything's
nauseam.
universe now.
Yeah.
Hashtag bring back the mummy.
Oh God. You know what? Here's the thing. We could never. I'm sad because we will never be able to have, I think, another Batman standalone. I don't know if we're ever gonna have another Batman standalone movie.
Matt Reeves is making one.
I don't know.
It's gonna be Jake Gyllenhaal, not Ben Affleck, but he's still making one.
I don't know. I have trouble believing in it. It's just like there's gonna be a tie-in to something else. It can never be just because, to be honest, the Batman trilogy, the Christopher Nolan one, is probably one of the last I guess we're gonna see of just standalone. It's Batman and that's it. Like and Logan was like Wolverine was the last one, and to be honest, only Logan was good.
In
The
the
Wolverine series, like the Wolverine. Well, no, the third one wasn't the third one when he's in Japan really good.
that's the second one.
Second one?
technically.
No, God darn it.
There's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
There's the Wolverine, and then there's
yeah.
Logan.
So the second one was good. I guess was okay.
It was fine.
Okay.
It was fine.
Because I liked seeing him before the adamantium.
Adamantium.
Adamantium. Whatever. I'm so bad at words. Me not good words. But the first one, I mean, we got to be honest, was the best one because it was Deadpool.
Oh yeah, that
Deadpool was
probably the best incarnation of Deadpool. In all three movies, like that was probably the best one. Honestly, I don't know why they changed it for the sequels.
So which one's worse? It's got to be Deadpool, but Deadpool or Venom in Spider-Man 3?
Deadpool wasn't in Spider-Man 3.
No.
I'm confused.
Deadpool, the Deadpool that we saw in Wolverine,
yeah,
or the Venom that we saw. Which one was more disappointing? To be honest, definitely Deadpool. But the thing is, Deadpool in the Wolverine Origins, whatever,
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
That movie,
fair enough.
It's not even Deadpool. Like, it's so another character. It's Wade
basically
Wilson.
They took the name and just made a character.
It's completely different.
And you can see like Ryan Reynolds trying to do something more interesting with it with the time he has, but he doesn't.
But
just
then,
can't.
then there's Venom in Spider-Man 3, and it's just so horribly wrong.
I guess I kind of like Topher Grace. I know that they went with like a different route, but the Sam Raimi movies are also very like they exist in their own universe. Where the Spider-Man trilogy is practically like a musical trilogy. Those movies are practically musicals. That's true. Like the characters are so much more.
Could you imagine
extra and less lifelike, and just more like these weird like not cartoons. Like it's not bad.
Yeah.
But they don't feel like realistic people. They feel like characters in a musical.
No kidding.
It feels like a superhero musical. So to me, Topher Grace fit that bill perfectly. It fit with the rest of its universe, even though people hated it. So I didn't mind.
What did Sam Raimi do after that? What else did he do?
Cry himself to sleep for the rest of his life, probably.
On a bed made of cash.
I assume he's like executive producing like 3 different horror TV shows or something by now.
Well, he did produce the remake of Evil Dead.
Yeah,
which was
great.
Really good.
That black thing in the swamp that crawls up her. That was gross.
It scared the crap out of me.
I hated that.
It's really scared me, which is not this. It's not hard necessarily to scare me, but not jump scare me. It scared me like I'm gonna have probably not nightmares. I'm gonna remember this.
It had a lot of gore porn, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, that's true.
It had good gore porn.
Yeah,
so.
but it's good gore porn. All right.
Title of my sex tape.
Yeah, title of your sex tape. Oh, Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference. So yeah, we were talking about Sam Raimi. Can you imagine nowadays having Sam Raimi do another superhero movie? It would just because back then, there was like, what else were there for like there was X-Men and Spider-Man,
and there was like the old Superman and Batman movies.
Yeah,
the Tim Burton and the.
But it was the beginning of the whole like superhero movie phase. Oh, we were so innocent back then. We didn't know.
Listen, Halle Berry's Catwoman redefined cinema for a generation.
Yeah, what bad movies are, God, it was. I've never seen it because I just.
Oh, don't! It's awful.
I know. Well, of course. We actually. A friend of ours, I guess we could. I'm not sure if they're my friend anymore because they gave us like a box of DVDs that they were getting rid of, and Catwoman was in that box. And
Do you still have it?
I don't think so.
I'll take it. I'll pay you for it.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I've never watched it because, of course, this is really an example of like a director who comes from music videos that does a movie, because the movie what I saw is a music video, or it's like not even a sitcom. Sitcoms. I'm being mean to sitcoms here, but it's just ridiculous the way it's shot. Oh my god.
It reminds me a lot of like. You know that scene in the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck and was it Elektra?
Don't mention Daredevil when I have something like water in my mouth. I'm gonna spit it out.
You know that scene where in the playground and they're fighting in the playground?
What are you saying? You mean the best scene ever shot in the history of filmmaking?
So that hot flaming pile of garbage, that's essentially what the Halle Berry Catwoman film is for like 2 hours, is that playground fight scene. Like that's how the vibe, the raw energy of disappointment that you feel from that playground fight scene is what you feel in the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. That's exactly what it comes out of. It's just, and it's such a weird. It's one of the movies that might as well not have the like license that it has.
Oh god.
It might as well. It's not Catwoman. It's not Selena Kyle. She's brought back to life by some Egyptian goddess type thing. The whole plot is like about some evil makeup company, which like good job making a superhero movie with the main character as a woman and then making it about a makeup company. You're really breaking, the
Breaking
frontier
the barriers
here. Yeah,
here.
you're really making something new and interesting there.
Oh, God.
But yeah, that movie's just a whole pile of hot garbage disappointment.
Yeah. Oh man, that movie. You know what? I remember seeing. There was like an interview with, I do not remember which actor. I think it was multiple actors talking about movies that they were on and that they knew were bad, and they all said the same thing. Actors or writers or directors or whatever. They always say that they work actually twice as hard because they know that what they're doing is crap. And they're like, no, let's steer this back the right direction. And so
Salvage as much of it as you can.
Yeah, let's try to fix this. Let's do this. And then I can just imagine, like, Halle Berry's not an idiot. Like, most of the actors that were in Daredevil aren't idiots. Ben Affleck's done some really good work. He's a really great director.
He's also a great Batman. People were worried when he was cast,
Yeah.
but he's a fantastic Batman.
Because he's the kind of he's the way the movie's framed, the way the universe is put together. He's a really good Batman. He's a Batman that's he's older, and he's tired. He's the Batman from The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
From the comic book The Dark Knight Returns. And even though in The Dark Knight Returns he looks much older,
he's like 70 years old.
Yeah, but he's that Batman. Like, he's the Batman who doesn't, I guess, he's still patrolling the streets. He's still doing justice. But
his reputation does most of his work for him.
Yeah, and there aren't, the bad guys are all gone, basically. Almost all of them. They've all been put away. So I think it's a good casting, and he did it justice. He got big, he got a lot of muscle on, which is different from, Christian Bale got a lot of muscle, but they have a different body type, but he's not as imposing. Like Christian Bale's Batman's more of a...
He's like that lean fighter kind of guy.
Yeah, kind of.
Batfleck is like this brick.
Yeah.
Like just walking tank, basically.
Absolutely.
But it also fits with his persona, right? Where he just kills people. Like, he just goes on murder sprees in that movie, which is a whole other conversation. But he kills a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah. When he just he's in the Batwing or the Bat.
I think it's called the Bat.
Whatever.
No, that was in the Dark Knight.
Yeah, the flying.
They don't give it a name.
No, but let's call it the Batwing.
Sure.
And he just shoots the whole floor of the warehouse with just bullets, and you're like, well, I'm pretty sure nobody survived that. That's something you'd never see in Christopher Nolan's version, where he would not kill anybody because it's one of his rules, right? Because it depends on which comic book you're reading, but there's a line, right, where he says, if I kill a murderer, there's still a murderer. If I kill someone, I don't get rid of a murderer. I'm just creating a new one, which is himself, right? Which is an interesting way of putting it, and you understand his rule, and he breaks that rule in different comic books, different versions. But I think that the Zack Snyder version of Batman is a new one that we had never seen before, because even the Tim Burton.
He killed people in Tim Burton movies.
He did.
He set a guy on fire, pushed another one off a roof.
Really? I don't remember that.
He did kill, because that rule is actually more recent than a lot of people think.
Oh.
Even in the first comic books, he hung a guy by the neck once. He shot someone. In the first comic books, he would kill people. It's more of a recent thing that they added to his character, because it works. It
does work.
It's a two-part rule, right? It's the never use a gun, because his parents were killed by a gun, and that's a big part of it. And it's also not kill people. And the two are sometimes intertwined, right? I kind of liked in BVS that he killed people, just because I felt like it's a good evolution of his character, where it's he's been there for 20 years. You know that at some point he probably snapped.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that movie where he snaps and he kills someone. And BVS has a lot of, it's not a great movie, but it has a lot of individual great moments. And the first scene that he shares with Alfred, and he says, Alfred puts out that magazine article of him branding people, and he goes, "New rules." And Ben Affleck responds, "We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed." And I really like that line, because it's it tells you exactly who he is as a character in that moment. He sees himself as, all right, whatever, I'm a criminal anyway.
Yeah.
Let's just go all the way with this shtick, right?
Yeah.
So it fit his character in that one. But the problem with BVS wasn't, the story and pacing and characters and writing and all that, but also
it's like 3 movies in one.
Exactly, it's way too long. But the Ultimate Edition is better than the regular theater edition. I will say that.
Yeah, I've never seen.
The story makes way more sense when you actually see the 3.5 hours of it or whatever. The story actually makes sense. But the thing that a lot of movies that follow the Dark Knight template, let's use that word, get wrong is like they want to go into like the dark, gritty, realistic, grounded aspect that Dark Knight had, but they make it depressing.
Yeah.
That's what it translates to them, is like they make a depressing movie. It's like, oh, it's gonna be dark, it's gonna be depressing and sad and morose, and Man of Steel and Superman's gonna cry and shit. It's like Dark Knight was a dark, gritty, whatever, realistic movie, but it wasn't depressing. There was still some sort of like good thing at the end. There was still like a moral lesson. There was still people doing good things. People like that scene where with the two boats and the people refused to detonate.
Yeah.
You know, in a Zack Snyder movie, they would just both press the buttons immediately, and both boats would have gone up in flames.
Michael Bay would have just like exploded like I've never seen it.
Exactly. I mean, that's like the difference,
and Michael
right?
Bay, they wouldn't have pressed the button; it just would have exploded. Just like
it was just automatically.
Look,
The whole water would actually just explode, like the river.
There are two boats. Boom. There you go, Michael Bay. Then a transformer shows up out of nowhere. I definitely share your opinion about what people got wrong, what they interpreted for why the Dark Knight was so successful, is that it's dark, gritty, and dark means depressing.
Yeah, dark means more people dying, more people suffering and crying and being miserable.
But because they need to understand that that's Bruce Wayne's character as well. I mean, Bruce Wayne doesn't smile. Bruce Wayne only smiles when he's playing Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean?
Or when Superman comes back to life in Justice League movie.
Yeah, exactly. And he's so happy.
That smell still haunts my nightmares to this day.
Oh man, but I'm talking about the Dark Knight here. The Dark Knight is about Bruce Wayne and Batman, and his reality is not, because it's not necessarily it's depressing, but it's not a happy-go-lucky, like he's not listening to
he doesn't really
music.
Enjoy what he's doing.
No, he's not like, yay,
he's not a happy man.
Here I go murdering people, here I go stopping crime. No, he's doing it because he feels like there's this need to do it
because nobody else will.
Nobody else will do it. And so it's more of adapting the nitty-gritty, realistic aspect of your universe and not making it comic booky. Because when you look at the Dark Knight series, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then the Rise of the Dark Knight?
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. I said bad with words and titles and names.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, it must be my old age. It's that it never feels like a comic book. It just feels like the only moment I think that kind of feels like a comic book to me is like in the third one where they all the criminals have created like a courtroom, and you got the scarecrow,
the kangaroo court.
That's kind of comic booky. Maybe it's normal, it's based on a comic book, but it doesn't feel like it's plucked out of a page of a comic book.
It feels like a graphic novel movie.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. True, because I mean, I wasn't very much into graphic novels. I didn't take the time to read them, and when I read The Dark Knight Returns, I just realized how much it influenced Batman versus Superman, and just how much that it's more than a comic book. It's a graphic novel, but there's just so much to it. There's so much depth to it. The writing is amazing, and the artwork is great, but it doesn't feel like a comic book either. It feels like you're watching something in a real world. Like, of course, there are characters that are impossible, and characters that have like the gang that are like all mutants. And
you have to suspend disbelief at some point.
Come on, it's a comic book.
Yeah,
but it's not going to places that remind you that it's a comic book. Right. It just it's just well written, well done. And I guess again, where I'm going with this is that movies that tried to copy The Dark Knight said, we're just going to go with the aesthetics of it, which was darker. We're going to go with the feeling of it, which was like heavy, and when I say heavy, I mean like it's the tone, and we're going to adapt that to our movie. Yeah, but if you're doing a movie about Star Trek, which is probably the best one, I think that's probably the positive one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop right here. You had a list.
I had the positive ones that I haven't said yet. Yeah, you want to say those?
Yeah, do the positive ones.
So Mission Impossible, I have Mission Impossible, obviously. Ghost Protocol specifically, because that was like the revival, right? Captain America Winter Soldier, which is, I think, like a great superhero movie. Best superhero movies don't feel like superhero movies.
Yeah. Well, Dark Knight's not a superhero movie.
Exactly. Black Panther.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think even Ryan Coogler said that he was inspired by The Dark Knight and like his approach and whatnot. Planet of the Apes trilogy, the newest trilogy.
Yeah. Well,
Especially War for the Planet of the Apes, but the whole trilogy is so fucking good.
yeah.
Such a good trilogy.
I think it's just I think it's weird because I feel like the tone of the movies became more and more like The Dark Knight as the more the movie went on. Like the first one was still innocent in a way, in the sense that it was still. I feel like when I think of the first one, I still feel like bright colors. You know what I mean? Like if I would express myself in colors, the first one's like blue. It's still got hope.
When you think
Then
of the first
second
one,
is getting kind of towards like white and gray because there's, and then the third one's just like it's snow. It's heavy. It's gray. It's black. It's
one of the strengths of those movies that they give you strong visual references. Like the first one, when I think of the first one, the only image that comes to mind is young Caesar in the little attic room that he had with the sunlight through the window. That's the main image I have from that movie,
which is beautiful.
Whereas the second one is like the forest, the rain, the grayness of it, and the third one is of course like the snow, and the like the soldiers and the cold, and those movies are very good at that specific, like the visual link to the themes that they're carrying through, like are very good in that trilogy.
I tried to make people understand. Like I would tell people, like, you don't understand, the Planet of the Apes trilogy is one of the best trilogies in a long time, but they just fall under the radar, and I understand
because they see like Smart Monkey talk, or they see like the Tim Burton one. They don't. It takes a leap of faith. It takes a little like leap of faith to like try to like watch them, and then but once you start watching them, they're so good.
It's so like, and it's probably again one of the best endings. It ends the way it needs to end. Like it's hard for a movie to end, for a trilogy to end the way it should. And you kind of, because we've all seen a trilogy end and go like, well, I mean, they could have done this where I feel like I've been cheated out of like what I wanted. Planet of the Apes finishes, the trilogy finishes, and you're like, that's how it should end, you know? And I guess kind of the same thing with the Batman trilogy. It ends in a way that opens up to more, and you're like, oh, I wanted more. Like, let's be honest, I wanted to. We
all want to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt come back as Robin.
Yeah, I want to see.
We all want that in our bones.
I so want that so bad.
They could still cast him. They should just do it. They should just cast him.
Do it. Just do it already. Anyway, so good influences.
I had two more. This one has a question mark on it because I'm not sure if it counts. But Blade Runner 2049 feels like there's elements of it that definitely, you know, we're different from the original.
I have trouble with that because Denis Villeneuve is probably my favorite director working today, and that movie, I don't know, because it's Roger Deakins too, so it's weird to Roger Deakins and Denis Villeneuve by themselves are so powerful in what they do. They so
stand
good
apart.
That they are influenced by other movies. Of course they are. I'm sure Denis Villeneuve was influenced by The Dark Knight, but they don't need that. You know what I mean? Like,
see, that's why I put a question mark there.
He probably would have made that movie that way even if The Dark Knight didn't exist, because Denis Villeneuve is just like, I'm not gonna say genius, but he's really good. And plus, anyway, keep going.
That's why the question mark is there, because I felt like it was. Yeah, it's like one of those, like, I guess you could see the influence, but it's so far removed from the rest on this list that it's like, and the one that I think is the best influence is Skyfall. Skyfall was an obviously like, what do you call it, like thematic or spiritual successor to The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
it had all the same elements, the same vibes that it had, and the great thing is that its follow-up Spectre is a failure in many regards. Like, it fails to follow through what Skyfall set up. Like, the two could not be more starkly contrasted. Skyfall has even like the same like the villain gets captured on purpose.
Yeah, I know.
And like it has like a lot of the like little same like tiny little setups, but it's just what I realized looking through this list. I crossed off the good ones, I crossed off the bad ones, and I thought, what puts them in these two categories together? And I realized that all the good ones have themes and consequences, and they carry through those themes and consequences, and all the bad ones do not. And that's kind of what I came away with, is that Dark Knight has clear themes like chaos and responsibility and what was the other one? Fear, which comes back in all the Dark Knight movies. And these other movies, the good ones, also have like their own themes, and they have consequences to the actions that happen in the movie. It doesn't feel like like a whole city gets blown up,
Yeah.
like in Fantastic, and it's just like, cool, whatever, let's move on, guys.
Yeah.
Things happen, and they have fallout and repercussions.
And I'm trying to think the movies that you mentioned. Of course, I mean Star Trek. And it's not on your positive list. On your positive list, there's
I've got Skyfall, Mission Impossible.
Skyfall. I think also the thing that I enjoyed about The Dark Knight is that even though, yeah, of course he's gonna blow up the two boats, and the Joker's like a madman and blah blah, but they never go over the top. They do. It's big. I mean, of course, it's big. They put bombs on boats, but it's not like the Avengers, or was it the Avengers 2, where like the whole
Age of Ultron
city is like
lifted by
the rockets, whatever, robots, and it's like the whole freaking country is gonna be flipped over and dropped from the sky. That is just, come on, right? That is just so
It's
over
very
the top.
comic booky.
Exactly. And so it's very. It always seems in a weird way to be not small but personal, I guess, or very much more like there's choices to be made, important choices, and you like, again, it ties back to the themes of whatever, the good, the chaos, the fear, and choices, human nature, because the whole two boats thing is about human nature. The Joker thinking that if you give humans a choice between saving themselves and by saving themselves killing someone else, that they'll kill that person automatically. So they're not going to even, the human is like inherently bad or something like that. But he's proven wrong. And so even in Star Trek, or even in Skyfall, again, Skyfall is very personal. It's very much...
It's very intimate stakes.
Exactly. It's for the first time that I feel that maybe one of the movies of James Bond where it's more about James Bond, his whole, like, he's in danger, but different than usually. Like, usually he needs to save the world, but now he needs to save himself, kind of thing. He needs to save also MI6. Is that it?
He has to say M. Like, the main villain wants to kill M.
M, yeah.
And so it makes it immediately more personal. The failure of a lot of those big movies, and especially big superhero movies, what I call skybeam movies. Movies that have, like, that skybeam at the end, and it's like the big laser that shoots in the sky. When all of your movies, the consequences of, like, the bad result that the superheroes want to avoid is, like, world ending every time. Eventually you just go, like, I know it's not going to happen. You know the world's not going to explode in Age of Ultron. You know that it won't have consequences. You know that some faceless people are going to get shot and killed, and you're like, oh, it's going to be sad, but you don't actually believe. You know they're going to win. Whereas something like The Dark Knight, when you had those two boats, you know one of them or both might blow up. The movie could do that, and it wouldn't break its continuity. It wouldn't make it impossible to make a sequel.
No, because they killed off they killed off Rachel. Right?
Yeah, they kill off Rachel. That's a great example. Like it's smaller, more intimate stakes, and so it makes it more believable because it might actually happen. And even like Skyfall is a great example where technically it ends in a failure. M dies. The main villain also dies, but M still dies. So there's a new beginning at the end. But technically the hero still kind of failed, which, again, the consequences, like it makes it feel more threatening.
It's of course, I mean, they're not going to kill the main character, and it's probably the only part of Mission Impossible that kind of always gets to me is that he's not going to die. So it's never like, oh, what's going to happen? It's more like, oh, how is he going to get himself out of this? Which is fine, because usually, like, in of Fallout, you just like, how are you kidding me? The helicopter chase at the end and how it ends is completely ridiculous. And I say ridiculous in the sense that you're just like, oh my God, this is so over top. And here I'm going to go back to Mission Impossible because we need to wrap this up. Mission Impossible, I'm so curious to see what they're going to do in the next one, because space, yeah. They are just going so over the top, more and more and more, and they're going with practical effects, which is great. But I remember in the first Mission Impossible, when you remember where there's a helicopter in the tunnel with the train, and the helicopter rotors just like stops, like, of course it's CGI, but stops like really close to his face, and he leaps off the helicopter as it explodes,
as the bomb, the stick bomb,
and he's he gets he stops on the train, he turns around, the helicopter's just rolling and fire and blowing up, and the rotor just stops right near his face, and you're like, that's just so crazy. But they just keep getting crazier and crazier. And that's why that movie, like, people need to go see these movies, because what he does, what Tom Cruise does, is just unbelievable. And you can't find that in movies nowadays. That's one of the things I wanted to talk that we never mentioned. What other movie today, except maybe you said John Wick, but even John Wick, he doesn't, like, his stunts is he's shooting a gun and he's fighting.
I mean, the driving the car is still like very dangerous stuff.
That's true. That's true.
Still got to give him that.
He does,
but I agree that it's not as extreme.
What else?
Because it's a smaller movie.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But what other movie would have a guy do a halo jump and really do it and drive, the motorcycle through Paris? And of course, a lot of the cars and the scenes are probably not even there, but he's still like going really fast and hard turns and all that. And just that kind of action doesn't happen anymore, because we're used now to superhero movies where everything is a green screen.
Yeah.
And your girlfriend is saying the best green screen is no green screen is so on the point, like right on the ball, and exactly what Mission Impossible is. It's the action movie without a green screen. It's like the old action movie where you'd see a car scene and you'd be like, they actually did it because they didn't have CGI back then, right? The French Connection has an amazing car chase scene. They actually did it. Well, in Fallout, he's actually in a helicopter. He's actually on a motorcycle. He's actually driving the cars. He's actually doing a halo jump. So just for that, it's worth being mentioned. Like, this is probably the best action movie of the year. Well, so far it's the best action movie so far.
Hands down,
sure.
easily.
I don't think anything's gonna come close. Again, it's an action movie. It's nothing else. It's not.
It's not trying to be. It doesn't need to be.
No,
that's one of his strengths.
And we didn't even get on to talking about film formats, but we talked about IMAX, I guess, a bit. But I'm just in awe of how I didn't know that Tom Cruise just like hated digital filmmaking. Like, he wants everything to be on,
which is great. We need people like that still making stuff on film.
And he wants to do everything practical, right? All the stunts and blah blah. So it's just.
You're saying we don't have that anymore. I mean, we had Jackie Chan before, who was the master of all that stuff.
Okay.
We have Tom Cruise now, and that's why we need a successor. And that's why I'm saying, like, Tom Holland is someone who I could see being that guy. I can see him doing that for Uncharted. Yeah. Because was he a gymnast?
Oh, he's amazing.
He does all his own, he does all his own flips, all his own stuff like that. So I could see him becoming someone like that who actually can do his own stunts and actually can do stuff like that if he's willing, Yeah. That's why I see him like he's like a young guy who actually still has that energy, that muscle, and the skill to do that kind of stuff.
Let's say they do two more, and then in the second one they introduce Tom Holland. By then, Tom Holland would be in his 20s.
Late 20s, yeah.
So that works.
He's 22, 23 now?
Yeah, but he looks like he's 12. Yeah. Anyway, that could work. But you said something that I was...
Jackie Chan?
Yeah, Jackie Chan. Here's the thing. Buster Keaton, right?
Yeah.
To me, Jackie Chan is the modern-day Buster Keaton. And I realized as I was writing this down that, in a way, I guess Tom Cruise is a sort of like a Buster Keaton. He's not, because when you see a Jackie Chan movie, you know that you're always going to... Like, Jackie Chan doesn't do anything else than stunts. Like, he's done other movies. Like, he did Karate Kid, but hey, you got to make...
Foreigner didn't have that many stunts, and it was a great movie.
It didn't have any stunts.
But it had martial arts. It had combat.
It still had him on the crazy... He still had a few things like him on the roof and and he's still doing things that are physically impressive. Yeah, that you're like,
for sure.
That's pretty. I couldn't, not everybody can do that. But he's also getting old. I mean, to be honest, I mean,
he's in his 70s. I think.
Yeah, he needs to slow. Like he can't.
Foreigner is probably like one of the last big things he'll do.
And so he's the real modern day Buster Keaton, but Tom Cruise is kind of like in the middle ground, where when he does his action movies, he's as physical as Buster Keaton was. He does these crazy stunts where you're like, but Buster Keaton did it before any sort of security was ever put into film. Insurance
before that existed. That was the beauty of, like, back then when you would watch Buster Keaton movies, you would know that it was him, because you didn't have the idea of a green screen in the back of your mind. Like, you didn't
even have the idea of a stunt double.
Going to see one of those movies, like, you went to see one of those movies if the circus wasn't in town. Like, that's where you go to see, like, stunts and crazy flips and people doing dangerous stuff, and you go and, like, you like that urban legend about the train coming towards the screen and people running out of the theater.
Yeah.
That never happened, obviously, but you would,
Don't tell that to anybody. That people think it happened.
I
It
know
didn't
it's
happen.
such a popular thing, but you would go to see movies because you knew that you're watching real things done in an impressive way.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like we go there and we're like, you assume that everything's like the set from Attack of the Clones, where it's two actors and everything is blue and green around them and there's no real thing on set and it looks horrific when you watch the behind the scenes and every single set looks like a set of Lego bricks just like moved around. It's awful. And you look at the behind the scenes for stuff like this, or even like for Rogue Nation, when he's hanging out on the side of the plane. I watched the special features this week for that just to like get back into it, and it's just they literally like they talk about how one of the set designers or prop designers came in with a little plane and said, "Hey, I got this. What do you want to do with it?" And the director McQuarrie, he turns to Tom and goes, "What if you were outside of it when it was taken off?" And Tom goes, "Let's do it." And that's it. That's how they decided they were going to do it.
What was the stunt that he had to fire his insurance company?
That was the Burj Khalifa. When he decided to climb outside of the Burj Khalifa,
Yeah.
his company refused to insure him, and so he fired them and hired a new one, which I think is hilarious. And that is very much big dick energy right there. Big fan of that. My girlfriend was never that much of a big fan of Tom Cruise, and she didn't understand why I was such a big fan of him. And we were sitting in the theater about to watch Fallout, and I was telling her about him. And in that moment, I convinced her that he's a real-life superhero because I told her about what he did for Rogue Nation, where he had to do the underwater
Oh
dive.
yeah, that's crazy.
He had to learn to hold his breath for 3 minutes. He learned to do it for six.
6 minutes.
And I showed her the clip of him holding his breath for 6 minutes, and she turned to me and she said, "Oh my God, he's amazing. He's a superhero." And now she's convinced that he's amazing. She loves him.
And again, I think we haven't mentioned this, but we have to separate the actor, maybe from everything that's tied to him. I'm talking about
Yeah, there's so much like rumors and the whole Scientology thing, and
no actor is perfect. Maybe besides Keanu Reeves, who he's I think a Buddhist or whatever. He's not a Buddhist, but he's not into sort of a sect or not tied to that or whatever. John Travolta is also into that whole stuff. There's Scientology, whatever. I'm saying that whole stuff in the sense of like cults. I get it. There's this big thing about Tom Cruise. There's rumors. There's stories that came out. I get it. But when you look at what he's done, it's impressive, especially Mission Impossible. He's not my favorite actor, and Mission Impossible.
how dare you?
He's not my favorite actor. Mission Impossible is probably not my favorite, series of all time, but it's won me over because I've realized just how much there is there in the sense of like the first movie being so different from the second and the third and then you've convinced me actually with the whole trilogy of starting with the Ghost Protocol, and I realized that hey, it's what else can we compare it to? And James Bond, John Wick,
the Bourne movies,
the Bourne movies, and the Bourne movies. I mean, the first one was
dropped,
good, but
second one's the best. I'll defend that to the end.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Legacy and Jason Bourne are not good movies.
Yeah, no, it was fine. I mean, and then apart from that, what other like spy action movies
I think the only thing that's close, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but Fast and Furious is the only thing that approaches it in its scope and popularity and range. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying you can actually compare it to Fast and Furious. There's a lot of parallels there.
I'm never gonna talk
good
about
or bad.
Again. Well, yeah, okay.
It's one of those. It's still a very big franchise that's been going for almost 20 years.
Keep going.
With a lot of the same actors still in it. It's always adding more crazy, dangerous stunts, more crazy heist stuff, building up its universe.
Okay, listen. You're talking to someone who's only seen bits and pieces of Fast and Furious.
I haven't seen the last like 5 of them. All right, Tokyo Drift was the best one. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Don't at me.
I mean, come on, Too Fast, Too Furious. Think of that. It's a great title. I just remember seeing the first scene of I don't know which one. Doesn't really matter. I think one of the last ones, and they're in Cuba, and they're doing a race. And
I've seen that scene.
Oh God! And then Vin Diesel,
his engine catches fire.
Yeah, and then he jumps out of his car.
to boost his engine and win the race. And the guy,
like, I get being indestructible, but I can suspend disbelief, all that. But when you jump out of a car that's on fire and
it's going like 100 miles an hour,
and you skid on pavement for like at least 100 meters. And you just walk off with like not a single nothing on your body, not even a scratch. I mean, come on. That's just like I can't take that. At least in Fallout, there's a point where he crashes his motorcycle and he looks freaking like he's stunned and he
looks
gets
in
up
pain.
and he's
limping
limping
away,
and
yeah.
blah 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 and but he still manages to get up and he's like after the next scene he's fine. But it's not like he's Superman, Which
You
is,
can tell it's a real person there. It's
Yeah.
not like it doesn't feel like a superhero.
which is I think here's one of the things that an influence that maybe The Dark Knight. Well, The Dark Knight's realism has influenced other movies. They've made spies and action stars and the main characters in action movies feel pain, and be vulnerable. Because before The Dark Knight, if it's James Bond would he never really.
Oh yeah,
get
he just
hurt.
would shrug off a
Yeah.
fall from like a mile.
He'd be like, oh, it hurt, and like for then a split second he'd get up and start shooting the bad guys, right? With the new James Bonds and the new, I think I don't know, Mission Impossible 1. I mean, he's always been. I think Ethan Hunt's always been very vulnerable. It's a character, it's always been like that. But apart from him, characters always like shrug off shots to the head, like, oh, I'm fine,
Atomic Blonde is a good recent example of showing a character actually in pain
Yeah.
and being tired from a fight and from what they're doing. But
Yeah.
I feel like the Bourne movies were the first to really do that, because the Bourne Identity and Bourne Supremacy really did show him
Yeah, that's true.
suffering and being hurt, and that whole scene where he's tired after a fight and
Yeah.
adrenaline pumping down and he's finally aware of what happened to him. But it is good that they're. I think they kind of realize it's the point. If you make the heroes seem like nothing phases them,
Yeah.
then the audience won't be phased either, because we know that they're not affected. But if you see a character in pain, and if that pain carries over into the next scene where it's John Wick did that very well, where he's injured here, he gets shot and he's injured, and in a following scene where the character is fighting him punches him there,
Yeah.
that made me go ugh, because
Yeah.
that he's got a bullet wound there, and that helps. That makes it seem, it raises the stakes.
Of course, I'm generalizing here, so it's not all movies that have heroes that are impervious to pain, but I think that the mainstream movies have become a bit more aware of that, except for the superhero movies or superheroes that don't feel pain. But I'm just saying that if you watch a director that make realistic movies, because it's not before The Dark Knight nobody ever felt pain. I'm just trying to say that it helped mainstream movies kind of veer towards that. So we need to wrap this up.
Yeah,
It's been
we've
an
been going
hour
for a
and
while.
a half, and we wanted to do an hour and 15 minutes, and we've only talked about 2 topics.
We haven't done our formats. We haven't talked about Aquaman or Shazam or David Cage. We can do that on next episode.
Yeah, let's do
I'm
that
gonna,
next
I'm gonna leave
episode.
you with this one little
Okay.
bit. Do you know what David Cage's real name is?
Oh God,
You
really?
thought it was David Cage, didn't you?
Of course.
His
What's
real
his-
name is David de Grutola. And that's what I'm gonna leave you with.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Thanks for listening, honey,
Mom.
Dad. No, my dad doesn't listen to podcasts.
That's heartbreaking.
He